I've already done a Kakashi versus Sasuke video and a Naruto versus Kakashi video. So today, I might as well just go ahead and do Kakashi versus Sakura. Now, if you're familiar with this mini series that I've been doing, you won't really need any context. But if you're not, what I've done in the past, like I said, I did Kakashi versus Sasuke and Kakashi versus Naruto at different points in the series, pitting up different versions of both characters and seeing who would come out on top. And so today, I felt like I put this one off for a while, and initially, I didn't think of doing this one, but honestly, I've been on a Tsunade / War Arc Sakura tirade for the last month or so. So I thought, you know what, it's time to do Sakura some justice, and might as well just go get this one over with. That's pretty much the premise for the video: Kakashi versus Sakura at different points in the series. Now, there's gonna be a couple of things I need to get out of the way before we start the video. This may go without saying. The versions of Sakura that we're going to be using is primarily going to be in Shippuden. Like, I hate it for Sakura, and to all the Sakura lovers out there, I really do hate it. But I think we can all agree that part 1 Genin Sakura isn't really contesting too much with many versions of Kakashi. So with the exception of one version, we're going to be excluding part 1 Sakura. And the next thing is that in the later entries on this video, I will be doing each entry in 2 separate scenarios, which I'll get into that later. And stick around for the last entry, because the last entry is going to be a little bit wild. So just leaving a teaser for that. But before we start the video, if you guys would, if you haven't yet, please like the video and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Guys, it really helps me out. It really puts the video out in the algorithm. It keeps inspiring me to make these videos, and I really do like a series like this that I've been doing. So if you really would, please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're ready. Click the bell for more notifications if you want to see more content like this in the future. But with all that out of the way, let's go and get started. One more thing before we start is that I will let you guys know right off the bat that the age gap in some of these entries might seem a bit out there, but I'm going to try to make this video as fair as I possibly can. So if the age gap between the combatants seems a little bit off or whatever, in terms of the versions of which character I'm going to be using, just roll with the punches and just kind of go with it. Again, I'm trying to make this video as fair as I possibly can. So to start off with, round 1 is going to be part 1 Genin Sakura versus Kid Academy Kakashi. Yeah, like I said, right off the bat, it's going to be a little bit crazy. I know some people might think that's unfair, but honest to God, part 1 Sakura has like little to no feats at all. And honestly, when it comes to Kakashi, you really could put him even at the academy at like Chunin level. That might be highballing, Kakashi a little bit, but borrowing some of the filler scenes in the Guy flashback with him and his dad, you could get Kakashi in that Chunin tier. There is a scene where Kakashi goes and defends Guy against what looks like 2 Chunin, and he just kind of handles them. You could argue that they were caught off guard because Kakashi just came out of nowhere. I think that's a little bit of the less severe handicap than being taken out by an academy student. And to make it even worse for the Chunin, like Kakashi does this like it's the easiest thing he's ever done. So he's even baffled that Guy couldn't land a single blow. If you do take those filler scenes into account, and if you do take them seriously, then you could get Kakashi maybe like the low Chunin level, which is obviously above this Sakura. The only thing I could say in Sakura's defense is that if she comes in with the mindset she had in the Force of Death against the Sound Ninja and later on in her fight against Ino, she could contest with this Kakashi. Because I mean, in all credit Sakura. For part 1 Sakura, what she was able to pull off is impressive. But that's really like all I can say for Sakura. And even that said, I just don't think, even if you don't consider the filler scene that I just mentioned as canon or whatever, or as good credit to Kakashi. Kakashi, even in his younger academy days, did train a little bit with Sakumo, the White Fang. So on that alone, you probably still could get him the low Chunin at the very least. So yeah, round 1 goes to Kakashi. Next round, we have beginning of Shippuden Chunin Sakura versus right out of the gate Genin Kakashi. This one is actually a little bit more in Sakura favor because Sakura's crazy. Like, Sakura at this point is crazy strong. She got some incredible strength, and she's got top-notch medical ninjutsu. And Kakashi at this point, like, it's really tough to say like what he has in his arsenal at this point. Like, obviously, again, borrowing some scenes in the filler arc, and it's a little bit iffy, but we are at least shown he's able to use the Shadow Clone Jutsu. And I don't really know when he learned the mud wall or the fireball jutsu. So if you wanted to give one or the other or both to him, you could do that. And then honestly, I think that would be all he would know. If that is all he's got, I mean, I don't really know if that'd be enough to, contest with this Sakura. I mean, now to be fair, Kakashi is still a genius prodigy. So maybe with his intellect, he'd be able to put Sakura in a position to where she can, be taken out. Because I mean, realistically, even though he's right out of the gate a Genin Kakashi, he probably is realistically still Chunin level, probably mid to high Chunin level, especially if we go off of a little later when we see him take part in the Chunin exams and beat Guy in the preliminary rounds. And if this guy is, anywhere comparable to Lee in the Chunin exams, that makes Kakashi pretty tough. So I mean, you could still get Kakashi into that Chunin tier, like 100%. I mean, he did kind of just breeze through his Chunin exams, let's be honest. So, like, yes, even though Sakura has much more strength to draw from and could take Kakashi out, because let's be honest, 1 to 2 to 3 hits max from Sakura is going to be enough to put Kakashi out of commission. So, like, Kakashi has no room for error. But honestly, like, if we're talking like straight out the gate Genin Kakashi, yeah, I think Chunin Sakura wins this. If we're talking about like late Genin, like right on the cusp of Chunin, like rank Kakashi, I think it's a bit more even. But I probably would still give it to Sakura on her medical ninjutsu. So I think at the very least she'll be able to outlast Kakashi. So round 2 goes to Sakura. Next round we have early to mid Shippuden Sakura versus Jonin Kakashi, like right out of the gate, Jonin Kakashi with the Sharingan. So pretty much Kanami Bridge Kakashi, maybe like a week or 2 after. So honestly, this is where the scale kind of gets tipped again in the other direction for Kakashi, because at this point, with the Sharingan, the Raikiri, and any other jutsu that he had, let's say the Fireball, Mud Wall, I mean, and the Shadow Clone Jutsu, I don't know. I think Kakashi at this point probably would still outclass Sakura. Now, that's not to say Sakura won't give him a fight, because obviously with her immense strength, durability, and her healing, she's still a tough combatant. Like, honest to God, is even though she's a Chunin level, I personally would say that Sakura is like low Jonin for the most of Shippuden, personally, until the War Arc. The thing is, though, is if Kakashi is able to land a Raikiri through her chest, I don't think without the Byakugo, Sakura is going to be able to heal from that. Like, maybe I can give her the benefit of the doubt and say her medical ninjutsu is just that amazing, where she can just re-heal her heart after it's been penetrated through by the Raikiri. But I'm going to go off the side of saying that she probably can't. Again, without the Byakugo. And we've seen Kakashi take on Kako, who was a stone Jonin, who is said to be, in the data books at least, a very powerful Jonin. So, I don't know. Plus, at this point, Kakashi has had a bunch of experience fighting in wars, probably going on like B or higher ranked missions. Not to mention fighting all the time with Guy, training a whole lot under Minato. So I think all in all, Kakashi's stats would probably put him above this Chunin Sakura still. And I don't want to sleep on Sakura, because Sakura isn't like most Chunin, but I think this Kakashi has the edge overall. I mean, that's not also mentioning that Kakashi by this point should have his bloodhounds. And look, I'm not saying obviously each one is going to go one-on-one with Sakura, because they're just going to get obliterated like it's nothing. But if they're all coordinated enough and fast enough and are able to hold her down all together, who knows, they might hold her down long enough for Kakashi to slam Raikiri in through her chest. Now, that might be giving them a little too much credit, because Sakura is, not someone I think is going to be held down by a bunch of dogs. But what I will say for the Hounds is that they were able to hold down Zabuza altogether, and Zabuza was a monster of a Jonin. So, alright, so before we move on, I have to address a couple of things, because in this part of the video, this is where I'm going to have to do some skipping on the timeline here, because I think we can all agree that beginning to mid Shippuden Sakura isn't beating mid to Shippuden Kakashi. Let's just go ahead and be frank here. So what I'm going to do for this next round is I'm going to do Pain Arc Kakashi versus War Arc Sakura. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm going to be doing this in 2 separate scenarios. I'm going to do the first scenario with restraint and the next scenario without restraint. Now, with restraint, I'm actually kind of leaning more towards Sakura in this one. I'm not gonna lie to you, and for a couple different reasons. Okay, so for one, if this is with restraint, that means that Kamui is taken out of the field. Like Kakashi is not gonna be using Kamui, and so with that in mind, I honestly feel like if Kamui is off the table, then there's only a few other ways that I feel like Kakashi could take this with restraint. Now, what I'm about to say is gonna sound like it's headcanon, so just roll with me real quick. If Kakashi is aware that Sakura with the Byakugo seal, or just in general, can do something similar to what Tsunade did against Madara, where like say if she gets half her body cut, that she could still survive if she calls Katsuyu, for example. Then if Kakashi is, willing to do this, and this still counts in the with restraint aspect of the fight, then Kakashi still could get the win by cutting her in half with the Raikiri. But if he's not willing to do that, if that doesn't fall with the with restraint aspect, then he can't do that. So if that is the case, then there's only two other ways that I see Kakashi taking this, and I'm gonna go ahead and cover them because they both apply to two separate entries of this video. So the only other two ways I can see it would be either sealing her or Genjutsu. And I'll cover Genjutsu first because that one's a little more tricky. So in regards to both Tsunade and Sakura, with the Byakugo, or maybe just even in general, you could really say they have really good Genjutsu immunity. Because obviously the way Genjutsu works is disrupting the chakra flow of an opponent. But Tsunade and Sakura are really well known for having really crazy, precise chakra control. So I personally believe at bare minimum, if they had the Byakugo active, they actually might be able to control their chakra enough to like get them out of a Genjutsu, depending on the Genjutsu. Now I know that may be like a big stretch, but here is my headcanon that if it's a basic Genjutsu, then I would probably give it to Sakura to be able to break out of it. If it's a Sharingan based Genjutsu, I would probably lean more towards Kakashi. Because I mean, like, Kakashi did stalemate Obito in a Genjutsu fight prior to their actual real fight in the combo dimension. And as we know, Obito's no Genjutsu slouch. So it is possible, but I would even still give it to Sakura to be able to break out of it. At the very least, she'd be caught in it for a little bit, but not indefinitely. But if it's Kakashi fighting with restraint, then his battle ender is going to have to be shutting her down completely with Genjutsu, and I just don't know if that's going to be the case. Like I said, if it's a Sharingan-based Genjutsu, I'm more willing to believe that he could shut her down with it, but if not, then I'm leaning more towards Sakura on this one. Now going on to the sealing. Now we know Kakashi is at least decent with sealing Genjutsu. I mean, we saw in part 1 he was able to seal Sasuke's curse mark temporarily, to which even Orochimaru was impressed. And looking back, that's not really surprising because, I mean, Kakashi is a student of the 4th Hokage after all, and we all know that Minato is a fairly decent sealing ninjutsu user, to say the least. So it's not totally out of the realm of possibility to think that Kakashi, has a sealing ninjutsu strong enough to at least hold down Sakura, in his arsenal. The problem is I wouldn't know how one works because, I've never seen it. So it's kind of the same deal that I had with my Minato versus the 5 Kage video with the Tsunade section, because I did mention that, Minato could still seal Tsunade, but I don't know if he has a seal strong enough to be able to hold Tsunade down for long. Same thing here with War Arc Sakura. I am not entirely sure that Kakashi would have, a seal strong enough to keep her down like indefinitely. And if he's fighting with restraint, that's gonna have to be his battle ender, is trying to seal her and shut her down. Without killer intent, I think Sakura could outlast Kakashi. And, at the very least, I think she survives, more so than Kakashi. I don't know if she'd be able to outright get the win because, I mean, look, I'll go ahead and say right now, because I know fans are divided about War Arc Sakura's scaling. Some people put her right at KCM1 and EMS Sasuke's level. Some people say that, when she said that statement about her catching up to them, that she's just full of crap and she's gassing herself up. Personally, to me, I'm going to say that she's like sub Naruto and Sasuke level in the War Arc. Like, she's fighting pretty good, alongside them both against the Ten Tails minions army and whatever. With restraint, I think she outlasts Kakashi with Byakugo, personally to me. Because, I mean, Pain Arc Kakashi just doesn't have enough chakra reserves to set up anything too crazy. And again, if he's fighting with restraint, he has to hold back a lot. And the problem is even if we are saying that Sakura is fighting with restraint, which I am as well, even with restraint, Sakura's punches are still no joke. However, personally to me, I'm not so sure she'd be able to land a hit on Kakashi. If she did, he's out of commission. So with restraint, I think Sakura wins this one. Without restraint, I think it's a little bit more even. Now, again, like I said, it's tricky because if we're doing this both with killer intent, it's kind of just like Pain Arc Kakashi versus Tsunade. And I just don't see Pain Arc Kakashi being able to do too much to be able to shut Tsunade, or like in this case, War Arc Sakura down. Now, like I said, the Raikiri bisecting option is still available. So if he is able to catch her in a Genjutsu or seal her for a quick minute long enough, then hey, maybe he can get the bisect. Or if that doesn't work, if he's at more liberty to do something like this, he could use the Lightning Fang from a distance or a Lightning Shadow Clone to stun her. And I know like a Lightning Clone may not like really damage her all that much, but I just can't see Sakura or even Tsunade being able to shrug off completely a Lightning Shadow Clone, or a Lightning Hound, stunning you. At the very least, they're going to be hold down for a few seconds, maybe long enough for Kakashi to take the win. See, now that the Lightning Blade isn't the only option for him to win, he also has Kamui. And if we are talking about just like plugging the controller in, off rip, killer intent, yeah, Kakashi should be fast enough. Like I said, putting Sakura at sub Naruto and Sasuke level max, in my opinion, I'd say that's fair. And being that is the case, we could probably just go ahead and say that Kakashi's fast enough to Kamui her. Later feat in the Kage Summon arc, that to me, I felt like his most impressive pre-war feat is being able to warp away Sasuke's Susanoo arrow at point blank range. And we all know the Susanoo arrow is faster than Sasuke himself, and not to mention the really strong possibility that Kakashi can warp away Sakura's whole body, like off rip. Now, I know in the Pain fight, whenever Kakashi was about to warp away the missile from Choji, he first says, with the limited chakra I have, it's impossible for me to get his whole body. Implying that if he had full reserve, or maybe even half reserve of his chakra, he'd be able to get Pain's whole body. Meaning that he is able to get someone's full body into Kamui with, one shot. Which is backed up by the earlier feat I just pitched with the Susanoo arrow. So if he's able to warp a Susanoo arrow, I don't think he has much trouble being able to warp Sakura. But that said, while we're on the topic of speed, let's go ahead and talk about Sakura's. War Arc Sakura's combat speed is, I would say, above average. She mainly relies on how hard she hits rather than how fast she lands them. The best feat I can show for her in combat speed is her hit on Kaguya. But first, what I will say is that this doesn't count as a speed feat because Sakura isn't using her own travel speed. She's using gravity because she's falling, so it's not really her own legs that are running or flying. It's more combat speed. Sakura was able to tag a fleeing Kage with a well-timed punch. When it comes to Sakura's travel speed, throughout Shippuden, Sakura has very little to show for this, only having 3 relevant speed feats that I can count even. And even then, they just put her speed as about above average as well. In the fight against Sasori, Sakura reacted to and dodged attacks from the puppets very effectively. She saw them coming and acted accordingly, so we have to assume she's gotten faster over time. And these puppets were capable of taking down an entire country. In the War Arc specifically, when she punched the Ten Tails minions after activating the Byakugo, she was fast enough to follow opponents who she sends flying with her punches. Sakura hits pretty hard, meaning that Jubi minion traveled pretty far at a fast rate, and yet she caught up to him. When it comes to her reaction speed, her feats actually aren't all that bad, depending on how the plot chooses to handle things. Depending on how fast you think the Kaguya arm was traveling, you can see as she has a good reaction speed. She saw the hand coming at a high speed and reacted accordingly. Even Naruto notes that the Kaguya hands were pretty fast. Conclusion about Sakura's speed, in my own opinion, I think War Arc Sakura's speed is pretty decent. Above average, she can outpace average ninja and Jonin when she's generally prepared, but she's not much compared to the likes of higher tier speed characters like Kakashi or Lee, who can comfortably outspace her travel speed and combat speed. Among her peers in the Konoha 11, I'd say she's faster than Shino, Choji, Shikamaru, Ino, Tenten, Kiba, Neji and Hinata when it comes to travel speed. Combat speed, I would obviously say Neji and Hinata are faster. With this in mind, I don't think it's too out of the realm of possibility that even with Kakashi's chakra limitations and Sakura's amazing buffs, that he'd be able to land a Raikiri and either chop her head off, bisect her with the lightning blade, or use Kamui to take the win. So with this one, if it's with killer intent, I would probably lean more towards Kakashi. I'd say 6 out of 10, maybe 7 out of 10. Like, I don't want to sleep on War Arc Sakura, but if it's again without restraint, I think Kakashi's got it. Next round is War Arc Kakashi versus War Arc Sakura. Now, like I said in the last entry, I'm doing 2 versions of this fight, one with the gloves on and one with the gloves off. And we're doing it with the gloves on. It'll probably be the exact same thing as the one earlier because, I mean, with restraint, the only thing I could see Kakashi being able to do to take the win is with either Genjutsu or Sealing. But the problem is if, like I said earlier, if Sakura does have the Byakugo already active, it's a little bit tougher to get either Sealing Ninjutsu on her or put her under Genjutsu. However, if it is a Sharingan-based Genjutsu and Kakashi uses a Genjutsu potent enough, maybe he could shut Sakura down. Maybe I'm hyping up Sakura's defense against Genjutsu a little bit too much, but if he puts her in a Genjutsu before she activates the Byakugo, that's a different story. I think a good feat for this is, granted, it's a little bit unfair given the circumstances, but I think it does kind of lend credence to it because after the war was done and Sasuke declared himself the villain of the series, before he walks away, he puts Sakura in a Genjutsu with just one look. Now, granted, it was Sasuke with the Rinnegan, and Sakura wasn't the Byakugo, and she was exhausted from helping to fight Kaguya, so it doesn't really, it doesn't really count, but still, it does show that she isn't immune to ocular Genjutsu in her base. So, if Kakashi puts her in Genjutsu before she reactivates the Byakugo, then yeah, it's kind of GG from there. But if she is active in the Byakugo while Kakashi tries to put her in Genjutsu, then I think Sakura's got it more often than not. So with restraint, if the gloves are on, because outside of that, like I said earlier, I mean, Sakura is just too much of a tank for Kakashi to hold back. She has too much going for her as far as durability, her healing, and her strength. And yeah, so with restraint, I think it goes to Sakura. If the gloves are off, though, that becomes a bit of a different story because we've seen Kakashi just spam Kamui, warping away a Rasengan from a KCM1 Naruto, warping away a KCM2 clone Naruto, moving at full speed towards Obito. And even if you do not want to say that the clone was moving at full speed, because, I mean, it's a clone. It's going to be slower than the original. So bare minimum, 70 to 80% of its full speed. I personally think at the very least it should be as fast as KCM1 Naruto, which is still pretty fast because that's faster than the right Kage. Not even counting that, the feat within a feat. He was able to warp away that KCM2 clone right in front of Obito, and Obito didn't even notice. Like, it's Obito's own jutsu, and Obito thought he hit the clone and made it disappear. What makes it even better is that Obito just a few minutes prior was bragging to Guy about his own Sharingan, saying, you underestimate the Sharingan, I can read your movements pretty well. So that makes it even better. A feat that I think that many people don't really remember, or at least don't take into account with Kakashi Kamui, is later on in the War Arc. Whenever Ten Tails Madara showed up to get his other Rinnegan back from Obito, Obito was walking towards Madara almost to imply that he was going to give the Rinnegan to him. At that point, Minato, Gaara, and Kakashi all tried to make their own battle plan and attack in order to prevent that from happening. Kakashi was in the middle of comboing Obito as a way of preventing him from getting the Rinnegan to Madara. Well, at the exact same time, Sage Minato, tries to blitz Madara with the Rasengan. Madara chops his arm off, kicks the Rasengan towards Kakashi, and Kakashi still, as he was comboing Obito, had enough time to stop the combo from Obito and use combo on the Rasengan before it made contact. And that Rasengan was kicked by a Ten Tails Madara. So either the portal was traveling that far from Obito to the Rasengan, or Kakashi literally dispelled the first portal on Obito and used another one right in the split second that the Rasengan was about to make contact with him. That's crazy to me. So even if you want to put War Arc Sakura at sub Naruto and Sasuke level, that should mean he has the reaction time necessary to use Kamui on her if he needed to. I mean, even if that wasn't a factor, he still has Lightning Fang, Lightning Cable, and just the regular Lightning Blade to bisect her if he needs to. And with Kakashi's intellect, I'm sure he can make a battle plan to get Sakura caught in a position where he can either use Kamui or Lightning Cable to bisect her. I mean, just as a good point of reference, if she tries to nuke the battlefield the same way she did against the Ten Tails army and she starts flying up in the air, I mean, Kakashi's gonna be able to combo her before she hits the ground anyway. But even if that's not the case, even if she doesn't just give him a straight shot with combo like that, I mean, Kakashi is, again, fast enough to warp away a Susanoo arrow at point blank range. I mean, outside of that, though, like, again, if he doesn't want to rely on Conway too much, I mean, he can still use a Lightning Shadow Clone to immobilize her for a split second. I mean, he's got so much in his arsenal that I just feel like as strong as Sakura is, I just don't feel like Sakura can still contest with Kakashi. I mean, I'm sure that Sakura will make him sweat, you know, even if it is the gloves are off. I'm sure Sakura still makes Kakashi sweat a bit, but Kakashi's not one to really panic a lot, and once he knows the arsenal of someone's abilities, it's usually pretty dangerous for the other opponent, unless you're like, you know, Itachi or Madara, you know. Now, what I will say for Sakura in her defense, that if she summons Katsuyu, who will probably be a big help, that could pose a problem for Kakashi in a unique way. Because if she summons Katsuyu, she could spit her acid, which is definitely a hindrance to Kakashi. So Kakashi will probably have to rely on Kamui for Katsuyu. And with that being the case, even though he has plenty of Kamuis in the chamber, you could say that having to use Kamui on something as big as Katsuyu might make him huff and puff for a second, which may lead him to mobilize as well, giving Sakura an opening to come in and blitz him. And like I said earlier, all it would take is either 1 to 2, max 3 hits from Sakura, and Kakashi is out of commission, to say the least, especially from War Arc Sakura. So that could be a factor that Sakura could use. Like, that could be something that she could use to her advantage, is summoning Katsuyu as a distraction at the very least. I don't know if Sakura would be willing to risk losing Katsuyu, because if Kamui is a sealed dimension, there's a good chance she may not get Katsuyu back. But we're not being pedantic about it. That could be a play for Sakura. So all in all, I would probably give this round War Arc Kakashi versus War Arc Sakura. Gloves are off. I'd probably give it to Kakashi about 7, 8 out of 10 times. Maybe that's highballing him against Sakura too much, but especially with the Katsuyu feat, if she does use Katsuyu and Kakashi is forced to use Kamui on Katsuyu, then yeah, I mean, but there is a chance he may not even need to use Kamui on Katsuyu, because, I mean, Kakashi's slick enough to avoid acid from her. So unless she just outright crushes him to death, I mean, maybe Kakashi could avoid Katsuyu as well and still get the win against Sakura. So, but yeah, 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 at the max. All right, so I said in the beginning of the video that my last entry of this video was going to be wild. So just like with the Sasuke and Kakashi video and the Naruto and Kakashi video that I did in the past, I did a DMS Kakashi round, and I want to use DMS Kakashi for this video as well, but obviously I can't put DMS Kakashi against War Arc Sakura, because outside of the dodging Kaguya's hands feat, War Arc Sakura doesn't really have anything to contest with DMS Kakashi. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a hypothetical what if for this round and say, what if DMS Kakashi fought War Arc Byakugo Sakura with the 8th gate? Like, I'm just come on, y'all. That you cannot tell me that would not be wild, because with the 8th gate and the Byakugo, you could really call Sakura a goddess. Let's just be real here. Could you imagine the mayhem Sakura would cause? Now, with the 8th gate and the Byakugo combined, you could really make a strong case that she'd be able to completely resist the effects of the 8th gate, which, I mean, is of course death. Even if you say that she can't like and prolong it indefinitely, at the very least, she can at least keep herself alive longer than how Guy did in this fight with Madara. And if that is the case, if she is able to remain on the defensive and survive long enough against DMS Kakashi to where he runs out his DMS timer, she can take the win. But then that comes into play is if she could. I am not so sure, because with all that strength that Sakura has, you can't hit your opponent. What's the point? You know, I get it. Like, you know, I know people are probably going to still hate me on this entry because it feels like I'm just kind of gassing Kakashi up. But I think we can still all agree, even in 2025, that DMS Kakashi is one of the most broken things in anime, period. Now, what I'm about to say, you know, it may or may not help in this case. But so we know that having 2 Sharingans amps a person's speed. In terms of Kamui, it enhances the Kamui speed. Now, when Obito and Kakashi were quote-unquote fighting Madara in the earlier War Arc, and Madara was going to send his true secret orbs to both of them, Obito's Sharingan had 6-pass power. Kakashi's didn't. And yet, even with one not having 6-pass power, when they combined their Kamuis together, they were able to outspeed Madara's true secret orbs at full speed. This Kakashi not only has 2 MS amping his speed, but both of these are at full vision and full 6-pass power. So I don't know. I'm not so sure even with the 8th gate, Sakura would be fast enough to, you know, blitz Kakashi. Like, even disregarding Kakashi being able to phase through attacks now, he still has Kamui Shuriken, the long-range combo he has with his eyes, the Susanoo for any protection he's going to need. I don't know. I'm just not entirely sold that Sakura, even with the 8th gate and Byakugo, she could, you know, win against DMS Kakashi. Maybe I'm not giving her enough credit within this hypothetical what if, but I just feel like Kakashi has too much going for him, especially if he does go on the offensive right out the gate. Then I feel like Kakashi still has enough, you know. Plus, I mean, if we go off the assumption that Sakura will not be able to escape the 8th gate of death side effect permanently, who knows how long DMS Kakashi's timer is actually. We don't really even know. Personally, to me, I've said this before as a joke, but it actually could, you know, lend credence to something. The timer isn't really a timer. It's all depending on how long Obito decides to chill inside Kakashi's spirit. Because once he pieced out in the War Arc after the fight with Kage was done, then Kakashi lost the DMS. So depending on how long Obito decides to chill or how long he can chill, then, you know, who knows? And again, it didn't really seem like it had a fixed time limit, because when Obito was about to say goodbye, he said, I ought to get going now. Not that, oh, the time limit is expiring. So who knows? I'm not entirely sure. My point in saying that is that if that is the case, Kakashi could just teleport to the Kamui dimension and wait for Sakura's timer to run out, if she can't indefinitely stop the 8th gate side effect, which is death. If she can, then, I mean, I think she wins. I mean, it's not even a contest if she is able to survive, but I don't think she can. With all that Kakashi had at his disposal, I'm just not entirely sold that she'll be able to survive against DMS Kakashi. So, but maybe I'm not giving her enough credit. Please let me know in the comments and on that hypothetical what if for Sakura. I mean, let me know if I'm not giving her enough credit. Maybe like the 8th gate combined with the Byakugo just amps her speed way too much for Kakashi to even react to. But honestly, I'm being genuine, because that's a territory I'm not entirely, you know, familiar with. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. But for right now, I'm gonna have to go with DMS Kakashi wins this one as well.